In this video, we're going to see if you can spot the animal in this picture. Also, we'll be looking at non-disjunction, Down syndrome, trisomy 21, this whole topic. And hopefully after this video, you understand everything about it. I recommend that if you don't know anything about meiosis yet, you should first watch a video on that. And I have a video on that if you haven't watched one. But if you know a little bit about meiosis, this video should be fine. So let's get into it. So what do you notice in this karyotype? We know a normal human being has 46 chromosomes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you count it up, it'd be 46. But what do you notice in this one? In this one, there is 47 chromosomes instead. The reason is on chromosome 21, there is 3 segments, whereas normally there should be 2, because you can notice there's 2, 2, 2, but there on 21 there's 3. So we call this trisomy 21 because on the 21st chromosome pair there is 3 chromosomes instead of 2. A synonym for trisomy 21, so when there's 3 chromosomes on the 21st chromosome, would be called Down syndrome. So when you have 3 chromosomes on another one, it's another disease. So when it's on the 21st chromosome, it's called Down syndrome, okay? So in this karyotype, we can also see that this person is a female. It's got an two X chromosomes. So we can assume that this little girl here, this is the karyotype for this little girl here. She has Down syndrome and she's a female. Now, people with Down syndrome have typical characteristics. They typically have upslanted eyes, flatter noses, flatter foreheads, and many other unique things. So when you see a person with Down syndrome, it is quite distinct. You immediately know. Another interesting thing is that 50% of people with Down syndrome have this line that goes continuously across their palm. Of course, some people may have this line and actually don't have Down syndrome, so it's not a definitive thing. If you see a line going across your hand and you're looking right now and you're saying, damn, I have that, I must have Down syndrome. No, not all the time. Of course, some people may have this line and actually not have Down syndrome. So it's only in 50% of people with Down syndrome that this line is continuous. Now, so the question now is, how does this happen? How can 47 chromosomes appear in each cell instead of 46? Like, how is this possible? So the way in which this happens is during meiosis. Okay, so normally we know our body cells have 46 chromosomes, and we know we are formed when an egg and a sperm meets, right? So say, and we know first of all that sex cells are the only cells in our body that have half the amount of chromosomes. So a sperm cell has 23 chromosomes and an egg cell has 23 chromosomes. Now, when the male donates sperm and that meets the egg, we know that the DNA will combine to form one cell, and this cell will duplicate and duplicate to form a full human being. So let's look at it clearly. And by the way, I'm not talking about a real egg, of course. It's the egg that a female gives. So let's say here comes the sperm. It reaches the egg, okay? And now it's going to inject its DNA into the egg. So now it's going to be 23 plus 23. Now we will have 46 chromosomes. So this is the first real body cell. And this cell will replicate and replicate until a whole human being is formed, okay? So you see, it's pretty much straightforward. 2 sex cells with half the DNA meet, and they form one complete cell that will form a whole human being. Now, so how does 47 happen? So you can use some logic and think, how can we produce 47 instead of 46? So let's say during meiosis, remember meiosis is the process that forms sex cells. So meiosis will produce sperm cells or egg cells. So let's say meiosis went wrong and suddenly we have a sperm with 24 chromosomes and a normal egg cell. So when this sperm reaches the egg and it donates the DNA, now we will have a cell that forms that has 23 plus 24 chromosomes, and that is 47. Okay, so this cell will develop and multiply to form a person with Down syndrome because the DNA has 1 extra chromosome. In the contrary, we could also have an egg cell with 24 and a normal sperm cell. Now when they meet, again, the same thing, 24 plus 23, and we form an egg cell with 47 chromosomes. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. That's how it happens. Now the next question would be answering why, how is a sperm cell or an egg cell produced with more than 23 chromosomes? Like how can this happen? What process makes this happen? So it is meiosis. During meiosis, some things can go wrong, and instead of producing a sperm or an egg cell with 23 chromosomes, you may produce a sperm or an egg cell with more than 23, and this can eventually potentially lead to trisomy 21 if that chromosome that was duplicated, or the reason why there's 24 chromosomes is because there's an extra 21st chromosome. That would be called Down syndrome. Okay, so let's see how this happens. So we know meiosis consists of two phases, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So you can fail and make a sperm or an egg cell with 24 chromosomes if something goes wrong in either meiosis 1 or meiosis 2. So for example, in one scenario, meiosis 1 will be normal and meiosis 2 will be abnormal, and this will produce a sperm cell with 24 chromosomes. On the contrary, meiosis 1 could be normal and meiosis 2 could be abnormal, and this could produce a sperm or an egg cell with abnormal chromosomes. So either meiosis 1 or meiosis 2 could be abnormal, and this could produce an egg or a sperm cell that has the incorrect number of chromosomes or an additional chromosome. So let's see how it happens. First, we'll look at the scenario of meiosis 1 being normal and meiosis 2 being abnormal, and how this produces a sperm cell or an egg cell that is abnormal. So here we go. So here we have a normal cell. We're going to start meiosis as normal. The DNA replicates. I'm going to rush this because the purpose of this video is not to explain meiosis. It's rather to show what happens when it goes wrong. So here we know the DNA doubles. It lines up in the middle during metaphase. Some DNA is exchanged as normal. And then then we get to anaphase, in which the DNA is pulled apart. So one chromosome will go into the one pair will go into the one cell, and the other pair will go into the other cell, just like this picture shows here. And then you will form, essentially, after meiosis 1, two cells that have a normal amount of chromosomes, but the chromosomes are mixed up. So you manage to make a new set of a cell with unique DNA. So you have two cells now with unique DNA. But these cells still have normal amounts of chromosomes. And we know that's not good, because meiosis, the purpose of meiosis is to produce sperm or egg cells which have half the amount of DNA. And right now, they still have the normal amount. Okay? So we continue. Only this time, meiosis 2 is not normal. Okay? And we'll see what happens. So we take now one of these cells that was produced during meiosis 1, and we continue the process. But remember, this process happens for both cells. So let's take this one and see. Now we have prophase, then we go into metaphase, they line up in the middle, and in anaphase, now they will get pulled apart. Only now the difference is, instead of having one chromatid go to each side, one of them will fail. In this case, chromosome 21 will fail. Remember, it needs to be chromosome 21. So we only have 3 chromosomes here, but pretend you need to know that this happens with all the chromosomes, and when there's a problem and the chromosome 21 fails to separate properly into two separate cells, this could lead to trisomy 21. So let's see. The red one we're going to pretend is the 21st chromosome. So right now it's separating, but it didn't separate right. See? Both of them went to one cell, and the other one didn't get any at all. So you can see this cell will be missing a 21st chromosome, and this one will have 2. Okay? So we'll have one cell. So this is the final product. So the final product will either have one cell with an extra 21st chromosome, or one cell that is missing a complete 21st chromosome. So both of these are considered sex cells. Okay? So they can be either a sperm or an egg cell. So now what happens? So now you might ask, okay, now we have 2. So what does this mean? So now let's pretend this one right here is a sperm. And now we are waiting for an egg to donate It's DNA. So here we have an egg. Okay, we're going to pretend this is an egg cell. You can see it's also got half the amount of DNA. Only the sperm has an extra copy, which it shouldn't have. So when the sperm combines with the egg, what will happen? We will have this outcome. So you can see there's 1 red and 2 red. So when the 2 red from the sperm is donated, we will have 3 of chromosome 21. But since we only have 1 blue from the sperm and 1 blue from the egg, we will have a normal 2. And then we have 1 green and 1 green, so that'll be a normal 2. So you can see only chromosome 21 it has 3, and we call this trisomy. So this body cell now will have 47 chromosomes because we have this extra chromosome 21, just like in this picture here. Okay, so on the contrary, so that's what happens for Down syndrome. And remember, it only happens if it's on the 21st chromosome. This person will have 47 chromosomes. Now, what about this one? This cell is missing a 21st chromosome. So when it meets an egg, what will happen? So let's see, this sperm meets up now with this egg. What will happen? We will have only 1 chromosome 21 and the normal blue and the normal green. So this one will be missing a chromosome. So we'll call this one that it only has 45 chromosomes, so it has 1 less. So where Down syndrome has 1 extra, the other cell will have one less. The only thing is, typically, people that have 1 chromosome less don't survive, so they die before birth. Whereas people with this extra chromosome, like Down syndrome, they survive and they can be born. So we never see people like this because they don't survive, but we do see people with Down syndrome that have 1 extra chromosome. Okay, so this was the example when meiosis 2 had the problem and meiosis 1 was normal. So now let's look how Down syndrome can happen if meiosis 1 is abnormal and meiosis 2 is normal. Okay, here we go. It's very simple, just follow. So here we go. Now this will be the problem. So we have the normal DNA, okay? We enter prophase, we enter metaphase, it's still in the middle. We eventually go to anaphase, and we notice normally 1 chromosome pair should go to each side. So normally we should have 3 chromosomes here going to this cell and 3 chromosome pairs going to this cell. Only now they're not separating properly once again. So now instead we're having 2 full chromosomes pairs going to one side that is red, that is 21. Remember, the red represents 21st chromosome. So you can notice now this is also going to be a problem. So the product that we have after meiosis 1 is a cell that is missing all of the 21st chromosomes and a second cell that has double the amount of 21st chromosomes it should have. So now when we move to meiosis 2, so let's take this cell. We move to meiosis 2, this will be normal, but the outcome is still going to be wrong because of meiosis 1 being wrong. So let's take this cell. We enter meiosis 2. Here we have it. They line up in the middle during metaphase. Remember, metaphase for middle. They line up in the middle, M for middle. And now they're going to separate normally because this is a normal one. So they're all going to separate effectively into the separate cells. So the product we form is 2 cells that have 2 red ones, so 2 chromosome 21s, and only 1 of the other ones. So both of these cells will be a problem because they both have an extra 21st chromosome. And they should only have 1 of each chromosome, but they have 2 red and then 1 of the green and the blue. So there's still an extra chromosome 21. So let's again wait for the egg. So let's pretend these are sperms and here comes the egg. Okay, so these are sperms. Here comes the egg. They combine. What do you predict is going to happen? We have 1 red plus 2 red. That's going to form 3 red. 1 blue, that's 2 blue. And 1 green, and I messed this up. There should be another green here, so I'll just duplicate this. Okay, there should be 2 greens here. So that's normal, but there's 3 red once more, so 3 chromosome 21s again, called trisomy, and again, if this happens in chromosome 21, like we just demonstrated, this is Down syndrome. So this person has 47 chromosomes, and we've used the other cell, the exact same thing will happen. So this is how we can see, based on either meiosis 1 or meiosis 2 going wrong, we will produce cells, sex cells, so we'll produce sperm or egg cells that have 24 chromosomes. And this will ultimately lead to when they combine together to form a zygote that has 47 chromosomes, and that zygote will duplicate and duplicate to form a human being that will have Down syndrome. So I hope this made sense.